Okay, let's unpack this. We're taking a deep dive into a really specific, maybe slightly unsettling entry from a classic text on historical medicine.
Yeah, sort of like digging into a time capsule of old remedies.
Exactly. The text is William Boericke's Homeopathic Materia Medica. It's this huge index of substances and symptoms used in that system.
And the one we're looking at today is called Anthracinum.
Anthracinum. And, well, this is where it gets really interesting, maybe even a bit jarring for us today.
Right.
This substance, it's listed as being derived from anthrax poison.
Yes, that anthrax. It really highlights that core homeopathic idea, doesn't it? Like treats, like
Using something that causes symptoms to treat similar symptoms. But wow, anthrax poison takes it to an extreme level here.
definitely. So our mission really is just to go through Boericke's description, pull out the key details, the characteristics he associated with anthracinum based on, the homeopathic understanding back then.
Okay, so what does he actually say it was used for? What kinds of conditions?
Well, first he mentions epidemic spleen diseases in animals, which kind of makes sense given where it comes from.
Huh.
But for people, it's mainly linked to what he calls septic inflammation. Think really severe infections.
Septic inflammation, like what specifically?
Things like carbuncles, those are nasty, deep infections under the skin, and malignant ulcers. He even lists things like boil-like eruptions, and even acne.
And wasn't there one particular sensation the text really flags?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. A key characteristic symptom is terrible burning.
Terrible burning.
He actually calls it intolerable burning in the affected tissues. Not just pain, but that specific, intense burning quality.
Intolerable burning. That paints a picture.
Yeah.
What about the physical changes? What did the tissues supposedly do?
The text gets pretty graphic here. It talks about induration, like hardening of the tissue edema, swelling, abscesses,
Yep.
buboes, swollen glands, inflammation of connective tissue with pus. And it gets worse. Black and blue blisters, ulceration, sloughing tissue.
Sloughing, like dead tissue falling off.
Exactly. Gangrene, even.
Yeah.
And foul secretions. It's a picture of, serious decay.
Wow, that is incredibly detailed. Grim stuff. And the bleeding associated with it sounds just as bad.
It does, described as black, thick, tar-like, rapidly decomposing from any orifice.
Tar-like. Again, very specific imagery.
Very specific. Like someone observed this very closely.
Does the text link it to anything else? Like external causes?
It does mention a few things, like potentially relevant after dissecting wounds or really bad insect stings.
Makes sense, those would get infected badly.
Yeah, and even bad effects from inhaling foul odors. Seems like things that might lead to those severe septic states.
Right, and in homeopathy, they always compare remedies, right?
Yeah.
How does this one fit in?
Yep, he does that. Says it's similar to arsenic, which is also linked to some pretty destructive conditions.
Okay.
And suggests anthracinum often follows well after arsenic. He also lists others, pyrogen, lachesis, crotalus, hippozoan, echinacea comparisons, and says silica follows well after anthracinum sometimes.
It's an interesting network. Now, there was something else in there, wasn't there? Sort of a historical aside about carbuncles.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's this fascinating little note about the prophet Isaiah treating King Hezekiah's carbuncle.
From the Bible?
Yeah. Applying fig pulp as a poultice, just tucked in there. Shows Boericke was pulling from all sorts of places, not just clinical notes.
A little piece of ancient history mixed in. And did he give any specifics on how this potent stuff was actually used in homeopathy?
He mentions the 30th potency.
Which, in homeopathy, means it's incredibly diluted, right?
Extremely diluted and succussed or shaken. The idea is working with the pattern or energy, not the crude substance. He also lists Tarantula cubensis as a related remedy, probably similar symptoms.
So we've gone through all these, frankly, quite intense details from this old text. Why should you, listening now, care about this?
Well, because it's like opening a window onto a completely different way of thinking. Seeing how they linked substances, even dangerous ones, to symptoms based on cures like observation and, even Bible stories sometimes. It's just such a contrast to modern medicine's view of infection.
Absolutely. So to quickly recap the picture Boericke paints of anthracinum, severe septic states, that awful, intolerable burning, major tissue breakdown like gangrene, foul secretions, and those really distinct black tar-like hemorrhages.
And it's vital to remember this is Boericke's account. One specific historical view within homeopathy based on observation and symptom matching from that era.
Which leads to a final thought for you to maybe mull over.
Yeah.
How radically has our approach to severe infections and tissue damage changed? And what can we actually learn, maybe about observation or just the history of medical thought, by looking closely at these detailed old accounts, even the really unconventional ones like this?